But he's like, you got to slow down because when you're thinking too much about what just happened, you don't allow the update that naturally comes with your insight to occur. Welcome back into Climbing the Summit podcast, where we talk about your personal climb to your personal summit. And this week, we're going to talk about a few things that are changing in the game. First off, we're going to keep climbing to the summit. There's nothing that we can do other than climb to the summit each and every time. But what I've noticed in my own world is a lot of times I get real frustrated with this podcast from the standpoint of I would love more people to listen. I would love more people to be active. I would love more people to be paying attention. But because of the structure of the podcast, where I am just sharing my personal thoughts, beliefs, and my own personal experiences, and from there, helping or hoping that we can turn my story into a version of your story that allows us to see further into our own lives. And because of that, it's a lot harder to pick up the content just drop it in. And that's okay. I'm not upset about it. Not going to stop climbing my personal summit. But what I am going to do is I've recognized that there is another mountain that I would like to climb. And when there is another mountain that we would like to climb, all we have to do is make up our minds to climb it. That does not mean that we take away from the mountain that we are currently on. That does not mean that we stop doing the things that we need to do to progress in the way that we need to progress. But if we are listening to our internal GPS and it is telling us that it is time to turn around and look a different direction, who is it for us to tell our internal GPS, nah, that ain't what I'm doing? We have the complete and utter freedom to do that, right? And that's what I want to talk to you about is that complete and utter freedom and how it is that I've fallen into this place where it doesn't matter where we go up, down, left, or right. I know where I am. I am centered. And in the center, the next move is up, down, left, or right. It doesn't matter which direction we are going. And that's a really beautiful place to be. And the reason why I'm in that place is because we have been talking about base camp, right? And base camp is that place that you come to in order to gear up and get ready for the next climb. I actually went on a hike when I was in Arizona. And the cool thing about the hike was at every turn, you would see a peak and you thought that was the peak, but it wasn't. It was a 1,500-meter climb straight up, essentially, with different peaks. And each time we would see a new peak, I would be like, oh, look, we're almost there. And then we would get to the top, and it was funny to me because I knew conceptually that each time we get to a mountaintop, there is another mountaintop that we can see. We can't see that mountaintop until we've come to the one that we're on. And so what does all this mean? This all just means that cast is going to be focused on mindfulness and business. From taking that leap from not having having a full-time job to doing your own thing. There is a lot of beauty in that experience. And although I like to say I'm an expert at parenting in my own life, I'm an expert in different things, I really want to know more about how people succeed in business. I want to know more about how people are handling the ups and downs. We all know how Danny Coppin does it, and we're going to keep climbing this personal summit. We're going to keep putting this podcast together, and we're going to keep talking about each and every journey, each and every climb, how we've overcome that climb, how we've seen through that climb, how we can look to the other side of that climb. We're going to keep doing that on this podcast. And I know if you look back on the course of the last couple years, we started out season 1, and that was all about me as a parent, me growing into that thing we call being a parent. Season 2, we start bringing guests on because I wanted to know how other parents, other people were handling these situations. And it was a beautiful thing. And then season 3, I was like, okay, well, let's get back to climbing a personal summit. Let's get back to working on my talents and my gifts. And then season 4, are we in season 4 or season 5? I'm not even sure right now. But whatever season we're in right now, the next season to come up, I just see it as an opportunity for me to share who I am with you guys on a deeper level in a way that allows me to show up fully as myself. Now, people can say, hey, how come you're not showing up fully as yourself in life? But I'm showing up as fully as I see fit, right? Well, I know that there is more that's left on the table for me, but I don't feel comfortable where I currently am in order to make those adjustments and those changes. And people are like, well, why don't you move? Hey, that's what we doing, buddy. That's what we doing. We have a choice in each and every moment on our climb to continue to going in the direction that we're going or to take a look, examine, listen to on a deeper level that GPS that you and I have been talking about. And when that GPS calls, it gives you information, right? It gives you little tidbits and nuggets. It gives you everything that you need. But here's the thing about moving. I love this place. It's a beautiful home, a beautiful community. I love the people around here. I just can't show up fully as myself. Is that a reason to move? I don't know. But we're going to find out. We're going to spend the next year going into situations that we're unaware of, unaccustomed to, and then showing up as ourselves. This podcast itself is about you showing up to your experience of life. And when you show up to your experience of life, your own personal mountain, you will have different information than you had before. And that different information is going to send you in different directions. And all I'm hoping for you is that when you hear the call from your GPS, that you're not so grounded in who you thought you were, that you don't take that opportunity, that new thought, that new energy to utilize it. I am not saying that if you got a family, they need to go by the wayside. That's not what I'm saying. In fact, I'm doing this so that my family can have what I would love for them to have, right? Those experiences, those things, right? So one of the things for me is, and I was talking real deeply to a friend just yesterday about this, kind of some of those podcasts that we need to actually record, I'm sure. We were talking about this move because he was asking me, he's like, Danny, who do you want to work with? And I'm like, oh, like this person and that person. He's like, man, that sounds like a lot of thought, like a lot of thought. And if you know anything about my coaching style, the coaches that I hang out with, everything is made of thought, right? Everything is made of thought. But just because something's made of thought doesn't mean that you have to move in a different direction or you must move in that direction. So he was asking me, and I was like, man, when we move, I already know the audience that I want to be in front of. I already know who I want to talk to, how I want to experience that. I just have to go out into the world and do those things. And so what I told him was like, we're going to find out. We're going to find out because we're moving, right? So we've been talking about moving since we moved here 18 years ago, right? We went to college here, got career here, left the career, raised kids here. They're 4, right? We've experienced this place. And it's time for me, like, I feel like that next step, I want to be able to go actually climb mountains without having to drive 12 hours to do so. I want to go meet and experience people who are interested in personal development, interested in family, interested in growth, interested in these different nooks and crannies. And when I go out into the world and I start looking for those things, right? I might walk into a business, say, "Hey, can I speak to your people?" They say, "Well, if you're going to speak to our people, you at least need to have a pamphlet." Well, the next place I go, I'm going to have a pamphlet, okay? And well, the next place they said, well, your pamphlet needs to have this information. Well, then you know what? I'm gonna get that information in. And the reason why is because that is how we grow. We grow without even knowing it oftentimes, right? Like I could walk you through the whole unconscious competence to conscious competence or whatever that is, right? I could walk you through that. But you guys have heard the story of the burnt toast. You've heard the story of the burnt egg. So we'll just talk about it like that, right? So like I was consciously incompetent that I was an angry person. And then I became conscious of it. And I thought that I needed to beat myself up about it. Wife burns toast. I get upset. And what happened a couple years ago, this is probably like 2 or 3 years ago, I walked outside. She burnt the toast. I got upset. Instead of getting frustrated with her, I walked outside. I then got upset with myself because I am still getting upset about burnt toast. Call my friend. He's like, you're slowing down the update. This is the value of having quality people that you can call in your life. We have a men's group. If you're interested or you know any men, please let them know about that. But he's like, you got to slow down. Because when you're thinking too much about what just happened, you don't allow the update that naturally comes with your insight to occur. So when she burnt the toast, I got upset, but walked outside. I had already achieved, I had already leveled up, but that wasn't the level that I wanted to be at. And I'm sure each and every one of you out there in the world have been in a situation like this. And it wasn't until a week ago. So like, we talking about this has been a 5-year journey here, okay? She was the eggs were on. She walked out the room to go take care of something. I noticed the eggs are getting cooked. I take them off the oven. I start whipping them up because we're making scrambled eggs anyway. I start whipping them up, scrambling them up, take them off the I take them off the fire. She walks in the room. She's like, "Thank you for doing that." And I was like, "Yo, remember burnt toast and remember burnt eggs?" She's like, "Yes." And I was like, "This is the progression and this is how it works." I didn't even notice, right? If I wasn't focused on the fact that I'm trying to develop myself, grow, and then measure these growths by noticing, the noticing does the heavy lifting, well, then I wouldn't have noticed that that happened. And I gave myself a little pat on the back because it's been a long journey of me getting frustrated and upset about things that don't seem to even matter. Now, we can get into toxic masculinity. We can get into the whole masculinity conversation, which is a different conversation altogether. But what I ultimately recognize is that anytime that we go through a change, we don't know that we've been through that change until we come out the other side, right? So a lot of times what we're doing is we're trying so hard to get the outcome that we want that we're not investing ourselves in the situation that we are in such a way that gives us the outcome that we want. We are going for an outcome that we want, but we're not executing in such a way that allows that to occur. That's crazy. But that's how we work as human beings. So just being aware of this, just being able to notice this opens up the channels inside our mind, inside of our brain, and on our consciousness. And once that consciousness has the ability to expand, we then can see the growth that has occurred over the last few years, last few months, last few days. That's when we can get excited. Well, I mean, we can get excited everywhere along the journey, right? But that's the real pot of gold, right? Is learning that each and every step along the journey was lined with goal, and each and every mistake that was made was progress to this moment here. And will I get upset about something again? I can guarantee you that I will. But it won't look the same, it won't be the same, and it won't feel the same. So if you're out there and you are climbing towards your personal summit, just know that you won't even sometimes notice that you have climbed to your summit, that you have the things that you desired because you've already set new goals. You've already set new adventures, right? But just like climbing up the mountain, you get to a peak, you see the next peak, you're saying to yourself, "Oh wow, look, there goes the other peak." And you just keep on climbing. And that's the experience of climbing your personal summit. And that's what I want for each and every one of you guys out there. I want you to climb your summit, to recognize that you will make mistakes along the journey, but those mistakes are not mistakes. They are actually right turns in the land of no. And if you're making right turns in the land of no, you're actually making progress towards your goal, whether you know it or not. Thank you so much for paying attention, listening. Please share this out because I'm so thankful for each and every one of you that have listened to this podcast and followed me over these years and listened to me just drone on about my ups and downs of life. But I'm 1000% hopeful that you've been able to see yourself and come alive to who you are, even if other people don't accept that. And then moving away from the people who don't accept that and finding people who do accept who you are. And then they'll challenge you for that too, right? That's what we're all looking for. Thank you. Share this. I love you. See you soon.